What's up YouTube, and welcome to another draw along with me, where today we're going to create this 3D mandala design. Now as always, be sure to check out the requirements in the description down below for the canvas size, the palette used, and anything else I've added in this tutorial. And with all that said, let's get started. So once you've created your canvas, the first thing we're going to want to do is add in the background image. Now for this, you can go ahead and swipe up on Chrome from your dock and grab Chrome, pop it on the left hand side there. And once you've gone to the link that's in the description down below to this black wall design, we can go ahead and drag and drop this image into our canvas like so. And then you can go ahead and swipe that up and out of the way. If we zoom out of our screen here, we can go ahead and increase this image size so that it fits the whole screen. And then we're going to go and drag it down until we add this little bit of texture in the top right and this little bit of texture down in the bottom left. So something like that, and then tap on your cursor when you're done. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add in a light source in the top left hand corner. So we're going to go to our colors and we're going to grab this color in the top left hand side of our palette. We're then going to go to our layers, create a new layer, tap on its layer option from normal and change that to add. Then go to your brush library. You're going to want to go to airbrushing and you're going to want to use the soft brush. Now my soft brush is currently set to something rather large, around about 50%. And in the top left hand corner, I'm going to start in a circular motion, just adding in a nice little blanket of light from that corner like so. So a little bit brighter in that top left and then nice and faint as it runs out to the right hand side. Next, let's go ahead and create a gradient for our mandala. So let's create a new layer. And then we're going to go ahead and drag this color that we've currently got onto the screen. We're then going to go ahead and go to our colors and switch it out for the middle color of the first column. And then we're going to use our selection tool. We're going to use the option of freehand and color fill. And we're going to essentially split the screen into thirds diagonally. So top left is going to be this color, then the middle color, and then the yellow color towards the bottom right. And all I'm going to do is just simply create a sort of wavy design here like so. It doesn't have to be anything intricate because we're only going to blur it out in the end. And once you've gone across this sort of top left corner, you can go all the way around and then tap on your start point. And that will fill in that entire space with the color selected. Tap on your selection tool when you're done. And then let's go to our colors. Let's grab the yellow in the bottom left of the palette. Go back to our selection tool. And then do the same but in this bottom right corner. So let's just create a sort of wavy line like so. And then tap on your start point to fill that in with that color. Then tap on your selection tool when you're done. Then go up to your adjustments, Gaussian blur, and swipe from left to right until you add in a full 100% blur at the top there. And that will just give you a nice gradient from point to point, and tap on your adjustments when you're done. So now we've got the color for our mandala. Let's go ahead and set up our layers ready to actually draw it in. So let's go up to our layers. Let's create a new layer, drag it underneath our gradient. We're going to tap on the gradient we just selected and tap on it and clip it to the layer that we just created, the empty one. And because it's empty, there's nothing for it to clip to. What we're doing is every time we draw in now, it's going to reveal that gradient on the layer. Now go to this layer here, the empty layer, and then go up to your colors, and you can just grab any color, it doesn't matter. I'm going to just grab white for a second and double tap in the top left hand corner. I'm then going to go to the brush that I've added in the description down below. Now yours will go into the imported section, but mine's in calligraphy under script 3. And then we're going to go up to our actions and turn on the drawing guide, which is how all this magic happens. We're then going to go to edit that drawing guide, and you're going to want to go across this menu to symmetry. And if you tap on your options, you want to choose the option of radial. Now, if you want to, you can go ahead and adjust the visibility of these lines on the screen. You can increase the opacity up or down if needs be. I'm going to leave it at 10% so I can see it and you can vaguely see it, and then hit done. And that's going to act as our drawing guide. Now, the drawing guide works in a way that if you draw on one side, it repeats it in the other sections. So what we're going to do is the brush size is set to 6%. We're going to start off by setting the guide for our mandala, so the full area in which it's going to go point to point. You can see this line running down the middle. We're going to draw in our guide. So I'm going to start roughly here, just create a nice little arc to this outer point here. That's going to act as the overall full size of my mandala. And then from there, we can go ahead and zoom in and start drawing in our design. So in the center, I'm going to start off by drawing in a circle. It's always a good starting point, and pop your finger on the screen to make sure it's a nice perfect circle, and then just fill that in the center. And then from there you can go ahead and create your little patterns. So let's go ahead and make this one nice sort of bobbly in the center here, like so. And now you can go ahead and create some details. Now don't make them too small. If you make them too intricate, you're potentially going to lose them when we add in the 3D effect. So for example here, I'm going to create an outline for this sort of bobbly center, but I'm going to leave a gap. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw in another circle, and you'll be able to see mine on the left hand side of the screen is what I'm finally going to end up with. So you've got something to aim for. So that's the center point of my design. If you want to, you can refine certain points as well if you want to make them a little bit more detailed. So now you've got your center point, we're going to go ahead and move into what I'm going to call the zones. So zones are a section of the mandala that have a repeating style. So the first zone I'm going to create is going to be sort of a petal or leaf design. So I'm going to go ahead from this point here and just create a nice little petal there, like so. Rotate my canvas so I can use this line here now to repeat that pattern, like so, into a nice point. And if we zoom out, you can already get an idea for the center. And then from there, I'm going to repeat that as is the repeating zone. So draw in another little one there, another one here too. And we're going to repeat that one more time up on here too. So we end up with the center point, which is our sort of petal leaf zone. And then while we're here, we can add a few little details in. So we're going to repeat the style of the shape. So I'm going to go ahead and create nice thin lines on the inside. Just replicate the style of the petal. So I'm just going to repeat that on the inside, and then maybe in this slightly smaller one, just create like a dark line that runs in the middle. And then repeat that on the other ones, such as here. This one on the top edge, we can just repeat that as well. Make sure we don't miss any, we can go ahead and do that in there. And that is all of that zone done. Now what we need to do is, when we're finished with a zone, we need to outline it, make it nice and bold. So you're going to need to press down with some pressure here. But you're going to want to go over your lines and thicken them up. You can see the difference here compared to these ones here. We're just going to thicken them up, and this will just help your zones stand out from one another when we move through the different sections. So that's now got a nice outline around it. We can then move into your second zone. So for this one, I'm going to start adding in some arcs. So I'm going to go sort of petal to petal here, just creating a little arc like so. And then I'm going to create another one here. It just goes up to that repeating line in the middle. And then another one here too. So just repeating the same style in your zone until you're happy with how much you've added in. So you can make them as big or as small zone wise as you like, until you end up with something like this. Now again, you can then go ahead and add your details in here. So in certain sections you might not be able to add too much detail, so maybe you just add, say, a dot here or a dot here as well. In this section here we've got a little bit of space, so maybe we just replicate the same curve as the actual curve itself, so something like this. And then this one here, you can't really get an arc in there, so I'm just going to put a dot and a dot. This one here, we've got lots of space, so we can create a nice arc in there. And then that is that zone done as well. And then just like before, when you're done, you're going to want to press down with a little bit of pressure. You can even go ahead and change the brush size if you wish, and just go over your zone and sign it off basically when you're done. So something a little bit like this, and then you've got the thick lines in between each one that define where it starts and ends. I'm then going to move into the next section, which is I'm going to add in some nice sort of pointy leaves. So I'm going to go ahead and just on this point here, just create a nice leaf like so. If I zoom out, you can see that's now repeated. I'm then going to rotate my canvas onto the other repeating line and kind of add in the exact same shape. So another point like so. And then in the gaps, I'm going to repeat that kind of style. So I'm going to add in more leaves. So I'm going to go ahead and from here, create a point and then into this point here. And then in the gaps, I'm going to go ahead and repeat that. So there's some just layered on top of each other. So another one here into there. And if you want to, you can get a bit more intricate and add in some more in the gaps. So a little bit like this. Adding in some leaves around the outside there, and that's going to look really nice when we again define it as its zone. So that's the basic of this section. I'm then going to go ahead and start adding in some details. So for this, I'm actually going to thicken up the lines themselves that run over the main front running petals. So just, or the leaves. Just going to thicken them up a little bit, just to define them a little bit from the ones that sit in behind them. And then again, I'm going to repeat the overall shape of that section. So I'm going to go ahead, create some thinner running lines in the center, like so. If you want to, you can maybe add a dot here and there in the center. And then just do that for all of your leaves where you can. Again, don't force any details. Something a bit like this. Look how great that drawing guide is. Just does all the work for us. And then in these ones on the outside, we're not going to leave them there. So we're going to kind of repeat the pattern where we can, or maybe just add a dot in little gaps. These ones here, not a lot of space. So we're just going to add in some tiny little lines. And then this one here too. Just add in a little pattern like so. And then the final one is this one here. And then zooming out, look at all that detail we've added in one go. Awesome. Let's then go ahead and define the zone as we did before. So we're going to go round our end points of this zone. So go round all of them, just thickening up those lines. And then you may need to just, spend a little section here, just a little bit of time, just making that into a nice point. Likewise here too. I'm just going to define this as a nice point of where that section ends. And zooming out, we've got the nice boundary. Now we're really close now to the outside edge. I'm now at this point going to just define this edge a little bit more. So pressing a bit firmer. It was just a very light stroke before. And then from there we can go ahead and try and connect these shapes together somehow. So I'm going to go from this point here, go out to the point of the leaf there, and I'm going to draw in a straight line down the middle, and then rotate that round to this other point here. So again, straight line down the middle, and then create some nice curves that run to the leaf points where we can. And then in the gaps, if you've not got a lot of space, we can go ahead and maybe create some curves. So just a little curve here, a little curve there, and a little curve around there. And if you have a little bit of space, you can then add in a little detail like we did before, and then maybe a dot here and a dot there. Just a few little details. And now we're right at the edge. And then if you want to, you can add in some extra details like I'm going to, a little circle on the line itself, and another little circle here on the line itself again. So a nice little circle. And just add some nice little details on the edge. And while we're talking about the edge, I'm going to add in some bumps. So I'm just going to simply just bounce my pen all the way along. Don't worry about the gap for a minute. We'll come back and fill that in just a second. I'm going to go all the way along like so. And then fill in these little gaps. Fill that in. So you can, of course, spend as much time as you want on your design. It may vary compared to mine. But once you're done, you should end up with something like this. Now we can go ahead and move on to the 3D element. So the first thing to do is go to your layers. When you're happy with your mandala, you need to pinch the gradient to the actual design itself. So pinch the two together like so. What you're then going to want to go ahead and do is swipe that layer to the left and duplicate it. And then swipe it to the left and duplicate it again. The middle one out the three, tap on the N and change that to add and lower the opacity down to 65%. Now you won't see any visual change. But what we're then going to do is pinch this one and the bottom one out the three together. And you'll see from your preview that that's now a much brighter version of your design. Grab your cursor. And then you're going to want to go ahead and tap in the top left-hand corner. Maybe say 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. And as you do, tap on your cursor, you'll have revealed a much brighter edge on the left-hand side of your design where that light source is coming from. You'll end up with that really cool bright edge on there like so. But every bright edge needs a shadow as well, so we're going to go to our layers. We're going to go to the top layer, our main design, so the front layer. Swipe it to the left and duplicate it. Go to your colors, double tap at the bottom of the disc to select black. Go back to your layer, go to the bottom one out the two and drag it underneath your highlight layer, so it's the bottom out the three. Tap on it and use the option of alpha lock. and then tap on the layer and fill it. So you alpha locked it so you can't paint the whole layer, and then you filled that in. Then go ahead and grab your cursor, and in the bottom right this time, tap 4 times in this direction. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then tap on your cursor when you're done. And when you zoom in, every part of your design now has a highlighted side and a shadowed side. And then when you zoom out, you've already got a nice 3D looking mandala. Then we're going to go up to our layers. The layer that we were just creating, the black one, we're going to go ahead and swipe it to the left and duplicate it. The bottom one out the 2, tap on it and turn off the alpha lock. Go to your adjustments, Gaussian blur, and swipe from left to right until you add in a 12% Gaussian blur. And you can see the shadow appear around the outside. Go to your cursor, which will apply the Gaussian blur, and then drag this down towards the bottom right, like so, until you leave a nice little bit of distance on this right hand side and at the top there. Then tap on your cursor when you're done. So if I go ahead and zoom in here, that point there is actually here. So I've moved it quite a bit in that direction. Then what we're going to go ahead and do is go to our layers. We're going to go to the top layer now and just add in that nice little bit of texture on the top. So create a new layer above it. Tap on this layer and clip it to the actual mandala design. Then go ahead and tap on the N for that layer, which stands for normal. And if you scroll down here, it will change, but we want to go down to subtract. We then want to go to our colors and double tap in the top left hand corner to select white. Then go to your brush library, go down to industrial and the heavy metal. And my brush size is set to, let's go about sort of 40%. Now, the harder you press with this, the harder the detail will be. So just play around with your pressure and how much you want to add on. You're going to start a little bit up here. And then as you get over to the right hand side, you're going to want to start to ease off your pressure a little bit to end up with something like that. It's kind of gone a little bit of a metal design and a chrome look to it. The next step then is to go ahead and go to your layers. And now you've got 5 layers for your mandala design in total. And you're going to want to swipe on all of them. So go to your top layer and then select the one underneath by swiping from left to right, left to right, left to right, and left to right. So all 4 are blue and selected. You can then group them together. You can then tap on the group, tap on it again, and flatten it. And then you're going to want to just give this a nice bit of perspective by going up to your cursor. Grab the distort option here. You're going to want to grab this node in the top left hand corner and bring that in a little bit. Drag this one out. Drag this one out a little bit. And potentially just drag this one down a little bit more. Let's then maybe skew it a little bit. And then pop that in the center of your canvas. And you can see the angles I've moved mine to. So I've brought this one in quite a bit. And then I've gone and pretty much left this one where it was. And then just adjusted this one outwards to the right. And then this one out to the left. So match up your box to this. Tap on your cursor when you're done. And then go ahead and pinch with 2 fingers. Go full screen with 4. And you end up with today's finished design. So I hope you enjoyed this 3D mandala design. If you did, drop a like down below. It helps the channel out an awful lot. And if you're new here, I post Procreate content every single week. So hit that subscribe button down below. And also be sure to share your designs with me over on Instagram. There's a link to all my socials in the description down below. And as always, a massive shout out to all of my Patreon supporters. I'll throw their names up on the screen now. If you're thinking of joining my Patreon, Patreon supporters get access to 3 exclusive tutorials every single month. I'll actually throw up the latest 3 that I've been posting over there. Supporters also get access to videos early, as well as sneak peeks of upcoming designs and much, much more. So hit the link in the description down below and come and show your support. And as always, if you're interested in any of the equipment I'm using, the Sketchboard Pro that you can use code JoelCreate to get yourself 10% off, or a Paperlike screen cover that I use, or the pen tips grip and glove, there's links to all my equipment in the description. And with all that said, I'll see you in the next one.